Hi, welcome back to another tower defense tutorial, and in this video we will discuss the statistics, the tower statistics class, and how it will be used and what we need to do to code it. So last tutorial we did the wave class and we got that ready to go for part 2, which will be in a few videos. We still have to do the map class and then the map loader before we go and do the wave and everything else. So let's just go ahead and take a break on those classes and worry about the statistics classes for right now. So for this video, we will cover the tower statistics. Now, I already copied in the writer and the reader, so those are commented out, but at the very end of the video, I will uncomment those and discuss them a little bit. Okay, so at the very top, we do need a few using statements. Just be sure to add this long one here. Microsoft.xna.framework.content.pipeline.serialization.compiler. And then the other one, Microsoft.xna.framework.content. Alright, so let's go ahead and build the properties. So this is a very simple class. It will just have a list of properties that we can use. And that will be what the tower... It'll have its statistics, so like health, damage, speed, accuracy, critical chance, radius. Some of these are not being used at the moment. They will be in a future patch or content update that we will be using them. But we might as well complete the statistics and use it later instead of coding it in later. Alright, so let's go ahead. Health will be an int. Damage will be an int. Speed will be a float. That's the attack speed. So if you want to call it attack speed or something. Accuracy will be a float. Critical chance and critical hit scalar will be both floats. Alright, and then radius, which will be an integer. That will be the attack radius. And that's it for the properties. So since these two classes, the upgrade statistics will be the next tutorial, since those classes do not need it doesn't depend on a different class to have its properties or another method in the other class to be complete. It just deals with the statistics. So what that means, we can go ahead and code the methods instead of creating just the headers. Now, what methods can the statistics class have? Well, it can have add, subtract, and multiply. Whenever we want to add two statistics together, we will perform logic to add each property individually and return the addition. So let's go ahead and create a new region for add, subtract, and multiply. And let's go ahead and create the methods. Now they will be static. Tower statistics. And then let's call this one add. Tower statistics A. Tower statistics B. So we add A plus B. In a result, tower statistics result is equal to new tower statistics. Then we return the result. Alright, so now we add every single property that we coded above. A plus B is equal to, result is equal to A plus B. So result.health is equal to a.health plus b.health, and just go all the way down the property list and add each one of those directly as you see here. Once that's done, we'll go on to the other add method, and that will be actually using the upgrade statistics. Public static tower statistics, add tower statistics A, upgrade statistics B. And next tutorial, we will code in the logic here. But we can go ahead and do the result, and then return the result. Actually, I might just combine this tutorial and the next tutorial together, so that way it'll be a little bit more consistent. Alright, now we have the subtract method. Tower statistics subtract tower statistics A, tower statistics B, and then we just do the same thing in the add method, except for we subtract everything. So just like we did with the add method, we subtract. And now we multiply. We create the multiply method. Tower statistics multiply. Now, is it going to be multiplying two tower statistics together? No, we will just have a float scalar. So, tower statistics A and float B, we will multiply every property by B, and then we will store that in a result. And then we will need a cast since float is a B. So just do the same thing we did with the add and subtract, except for a.health times b, cast as an int, and then set that as results health, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now when we have the actual tower selected, let me go ahead and hide that. When we have the actual tower selected, it will give us a little breakdown. This is your damage, this is your fire rate, this is your radius. Now, in order to do that, we have two methods. As you remember, in the last tutorial, we did a public override toString, and then we can code this. And in order to do that, we need a string builder, and then I like to call it SB is equal to new string builder. And what we need to do is actually build what we want it to look like. Build the string on how we want it to look like. So sb.append string.format. String.format is a nice way to format your strings as you're making them. Alright, so first things up, we need to have a bracket H, and we do that to identify it's a section of our statistics. Opening bracket and then closing bracket, that represents a section. H colon space opening curly brackets like that, 0 closing curly bracket, and then end quote, comma, health. 2 closing parentheses and semicolon. And then you want to do the same thing, except for we do another append, string.format, and then the very first thing we do is semicolon space. And then D for damage, colon, space, bracket 0 bracket, just like that, end quote, comma, damage. 2 closing parentheses, semicolon. Now do that 2 more times for fire rate, which represents speed, and accuracy. So just like you see here, we have a semicolon, FR, colon, bracket 0 bracket, that's the string, comma, the speed. Now we append line for accuracy. Why do we append a line? Append line means it will append the string and then set it as a new line after. So all this, the H, semicolon D, semicolon FR, semicolon A, will be all in one line. Now when we do another append, that'll be the next line. So the next line represents the next section, so we will need a bracket, and as you see here, we have an ending bracket for accuracy. So the next section will be critical strike and attack radius, just like you see here. Alright, once everything is done, we return sb.toString. Alright, now sometimes we do not need a critical chance or a critical hit and the attack radius. We just want the health, damage, and fire rate. In that case, I created another method in the engine to do this type of purpose. So public string to short string. It's going to be a shorter string, just give us what we really need at the moment, which is health, damage, and fire rate. So all this does is stats, colon, and then the opening section, and then health, damage, fire rate, and then we have the closing section, just like we did above here. Alright, so that's it for this class. Let me go ahead and uncomment the reader and writer. Okay, so it's pretty much very basic. You know what the get runtime reader does by now. So we just write the information as we have it. Health, damage, speed, in that order, all the way down the list. Health, damage, speed, all the way down the list. And then when we read, remember, for float, we want to read single. And then that's pretty much it. Alright, let's go ahead and go to the upgrade statistics. And I'll just do that in this video. I will not create a second one. So this is 2 videos in one. So let me go ahead and open the finished code here. And let me go ahead and paste this in the writer. Comment that. And then I will hide that. And then let me get the reader here. And let me comment that. And hide that. So just like the tower statistics, we need to create upgrade statistics for each one of these as we have before. Now, this is going to be represented by an XML, of course, because we have the writers and readers. This will be represented by XML as well. However, we want everything in this class to be optional. Now, if you don't remember how to do optional, we have content serializer, opening parentheses, capital O, and then the rest of optional is equal to true. Closing parentheses and closing bracket there. So that makes it an optional content serializer. So then we have pretty much everything we created in the tower statistics, create increase version of those. So let me just go ahead and paste that. So what do I mean by increase version of those? Well, we have a public int health increase. How much you want the health to increase per level? You start out with 50 health. Let's increase it by 5 every level. Not that health does anything right now, but it will in a future update. Alright, so we need to have the same functionality as the tower statistics, so we need to add, subtract, and multiply. So we public static upgrade statistics add, it'll be an upgrade statistics A, upgrade statistics B. So just like before, we add A.health increase plus B.health increase, store that as results health increase, and then we go through the rest of the properties. Then we return the result. Same thing for subtract. And again, for multiply, we might need to cast a few times, but we take a.health increase times b, cast it as int, and then store it as results health increase. Alright, well I guess it's a good idea that I did this in the same video, because that was pretty much it. So let me uncomment these writers and readers. And it's pretty much the same thing as the tower statistics, so you're good to go on that. Somebody did ask me why I'm not writing these anymore. It's because I did it the first couple times, and I think you know by now how to do the writers and readers. And of course, whenever I copy something, like when we discussed the wave, when I copied something you're not familiar with, like the monster assets, where we have to actually add range and it's a list of strings, and you haven't really done that before, I spend a couple minutes discussing that. So it gives me a better chance of, I'm combining my two approaches to where, for our complete games, I usually like to code everything as I'm doing the tutorial. And for the other tutorials, like the XNA random tutorials, like the maps tutorial, A-star, that sort of thing, I like to have the code completely finished so I can discuss the algorithm and the reason behind it more instead of coding it. So I'm taking two different approaches. You see me do the output.write, output.write, output.write several times before. I've discussed what the get runtime reader does several times before. So that way I could just copy the writers and readers, and since you've seen it all before, in some cases you might not have, and in that case I will talk about that line in great detail. But anyway, that's why I copy the writers and readers. Now, there was one method we did not finish because we didn't have upgrade statistics. So, let's go ahead and do that one. Alright, so we have result.health is equal to a.health plus b.health increase. So we do the same thing as we did for this add method, the first add method. You can just copy the same logic here and paste it below. But when we have b.health, semicolon, right before the semicolon, add the word increase. And that's all you will need to do to get this method to work. That's actually how I did it just in this video. I copied this method content, and right before the semicolon on each line, except for this line and this line, of course, right before the semicolon, I added the word increase. Alright, so now these two classes are complete. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember string builder and string.format. Those are two very powerful tools that you can use when you want to create two strings, how you want to customize how the class looks in string format. In terms of statistics, you want it to give you the most useful information in a condensed way. For the engine, I chose to have H as health, D as damage. I don't want to actually run out health, damage, fire rate, and all that stuff. So anyway, next tutorial, we will go ahead and resume our normal course of action, and we'll go and talk about the map class. I believe that's next. So, I hope to see you next time.